Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video. My name is Dr. Ray, and I'm here to answer your pet-related questions. My specialty, so to speak, is small animal general practice. I am a veterinarian, and my credentials are listed in the description box below for anyone that is interested in checking those out. I answer your pet-related questions, and the question I got most recently that I've actually had several people ask was about Fromm Family foods, and is it a good food? Are they good foods? I've heard they're good foods. I've heard a lot of things about the company, so can you look into them a little bit further? And the answer is yes. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So if that is something that interests you, then stick around. We're going to start at the website. The website is frommfamily.com. Now we're going to go through a couple different things. We're going to go through some of the specific questions that I've been asked about the company that I'm going to go ahead and answer. We are going to actually answer a couple of questions that I have heard from clients in my particular clinic. So I am a general practitioner, and I practice most days 5 to 6 days a week. So I am seeing real patients, and I'm answering these questions a lot. It's not just questions you have, it's questions that a lot of people have. And that's why I started this channel, because these are questions that I've heard over and over and over again. And so we're going to address those today as they pertain to Fromm Family pet foods. Those things are not going to really influence our analysis of, how good is the food. In order to do that, we're going to use a point scoring system, pet food scoring system that assigns points that try to help us stay on an even keel and remove a lot of things that are marketing. So the first set of things we're going to discuss are all marketing. They have no bearing to the quality or the nutritiousness of the food. The second part of this video will be the nutritional aspects of the food as scored on the pet food scoring system, and we'll go into more of what that system involves when we get there. So come on over to frommfamily.com and let's look at the website and answer some of those questions. So why Fromm? We'll just start there on the top. And the big thing about this company is it's a family-owned, small business, small family-run company. That's the first thing that I have heard. I've heard it from several clients, and I've heard it from you guys here on the channel in your comments. And so there they are. That's the Proud family. So for 5 generations, they've been making this food since 1904 through 5 generations. The family has been involved in developing this food, and I think that's awesome. You could read more about the actual history. It's a Wisconsin family of entrepreneurs with an American dream. The whole thing is very heartfelt. Actually, when this little chat thing pops up to answer your questions, it says hello from Wisconsin, and they really give this like family feel, like you're talking to somebody right there in Wisconsin. And if you're from the States, you know where Wisconsin is. Those are our cheese heads there. And so that's really a feeling that they want to give off. And so I had been familiar with Fromm Family Foods before clients started asking me about it. I actually did a review on one of their foods earlier, not because the client asked me about it, but I wanted to know because they said they fed their pet that particular food, so I wanted to know more about it. And so I had researched the food strictly from a food level before. I did not know all of this really intense marketing that went on surrounding Fromm Family Foods. Now I want to say, marketing is fine. I'm not poo-pooing companies for doing marketing. There are some marketing styles that I don't care for, and the marketing styles that I don't care for are the ones where rather than standing on the validity of their product, all they do is bash other products. I don't like that. I like marketing that stands on the validity and the goodness of their product and doesn't rely on bashing another product. And so the type of marketing they do here on Fromm Family Foods, where they're instilling this family atmosphere, and they're really proud of their product, and it's been in their the family for generations. I really like that. But you got to be careful, and you need to really, as a consumer, take that a little bit with a grain of salt. It is a good thing, and that's a wonderful thing. But there are two sides to every coin. And so, yes, they're, a Wisconsin family. Yes, it's here in the United States, and it's been through their family for 5 generations, but it is not a mom and pop. Okay, so one of the clients that told me they fed this food, they changed from another brand and they changed to this one. I said, well, why did you make the change? You were on a perfectly fine food. Your dog was doing great. Everything was going wonderful. Why did you make that change? Sometimes this change can rock the boat, and it can cause some of these dietary issues. Not necessarily the food was doing it, but just the change itself can do it. And she said, well, I really just, it really touched my heart. They're a really small family-owned company, and so, I like that smallness, that closeness. And so I knew just from looking at the website and doing my original research that was absolutely not the case. But I wanted to prove that to myself. I didn't want to say that, and I didn't poo-poo her in the room. I did this after the appointment was done. So I did a little search from Family Foods yearly revenue, just to see what it is. And there's different places that you can go to see what their revenue is. I'm not fact checking these things, but you can see Fromm Family Foods revenue is $37.4 million a year. We've got another one, $35 million a year, $37.4 million a year. This one says, even more. This is from October 28th of 2024, so just recent. Fromm Family Foods revenue growth and competitor profile revenue is 100 to 500 million a year. They have up to 500 employees. Take it with a grain of salt. There's nothing wrong with a company making money. There's nothing wrong with them employing 500 people. That's absolutely wonderful. And just because their revenue is 37.4 million a year doesn't mean, and I don't know how much economics you guys have under your belts, but just because a company takes in 37 million doesn't mean that 37 million is going into the pockets of the owners. That's the revenue. There's expenses, that needs to go out. They've got to pay for the machinery and the rent on their buildings, and they got to pay their workforce and all that stuff. So it's not like they're just pocketing that money. I don't know how much the people that own are making money, and it's fine to make money. I'm just saying, think about what this conversation started as. This conversation started as Fromm Family Foods is a really small, close-knit family business. And now think about your thoughts of that after you've kind of learned what you've learned, okay? That's how marketing works. That's what that whole conversation is about. I'm not poo-pooing you. It does not affect my feeling on this company whatsoever, because I only care about the nutrition, and we haven't even got there yet. That was a little lesson on marketing. Marketing makes you feel something, and that feeling, they hope, is going to spill over into your pocketbook, okay? The other thing that comment I got from a subscriber that made me want to look at this food was they thought that this company was really innovative. They saw on their website that they invented or had laboratories that invented and produced the distemper vaccine. I thought that was really odd because as a general practitioner, and I've been practicing for 20 years, and I own my own business, and so I am like the number one person that makes purchasing decisions. I know pretty much all the companies that make vaccines, and I have never in my 20 years heard of Fromm Laboratories in the production of the distemper vaccine. And so that really made me think, okay, is that something else that is there something else there? Is that some other sneaky marketing that's kind of like a half-truth that we're seeing there? If you click on Learn More in the Family History, and you scroll through all these, really sweet pictures of the entire family, if you fast forward down to, I believe it's 1939, Dr. Robert Green and Fromm Laboratories created and marketed the fox encephalitis vaccine, the fox distemper vaccine, the canine distemper vaccine, and the feline distemper vaccine, utilizing attenuated viruses developed through their research work with ferrets. This achievement marks a major milestone in dog, cat, and fox health. That has nothing to do with food. It has nothing to do with food. It was from a really long time ago, and you can read through why they develop it. But that was why I've never heard of Fromm Laboratories. I do not think that they are in existence today. We can do a really quick, really quick thing on there. But basically, I was saying the expertise of the biochemist, Dr. Willard Roberts, Fromm began the research and development process to create the first complete and balanced dry dog food utilizing large-scale scientific feeding trials. And that, that may be true. And what we're going to do is we're going to see if on the individual bags, again, this was already part of the nutritional scoring system, we're going to see if they're doing feeding trials on their current foods. And so all of this is irrelevant, because if we get to the foods and the foods are not feeding trialed, it doesn't matter what they did in the 1940s. If they're not doing it now, again, that is a little bit misleading in my opinion. So that was to answer the questions related to the marketing that I got on Fromm Family Foods. All right, so let's get into the food. They have a lot of foods, and so I could not do all of them. There were just way too many. In general, when a pet food company has a million, trillion, gazillion bags of food, to me, that's just superfluous. It's not really necessary. We don't need all those. It's just very confusing. They do that from a marketing standpoint. They do that to engage more buyers. And if you engage more buyers, there's a cost-profit, a cost-benefit analysis that's done there. And they say, look, we can make this many foods, and we project we'll get this many more people to buy. And so it's profitable to make all these foods. It's just really, from a medical standpoint, there's no reason to make the number of foods that they produce. And so to me, when I see a portfolio like this, I get a little bit concerned that it's more marketing than actual nutrition. What I did was, because I couldn't do all of them, I picked I just did dry, and I had to be really careful because they had some lines that were grain-free lines, and I didn't have any desire to be evaluating the grain-free lines. And then they had some of these kind of boutique-y ones, and I did not do that because they did not list the complete nutrient profile on the website, and I was not going to call them, for 25 products that, that just was burdening the company for no reason. If you are fancying one of these boutique-y ones, then you'll know the process at the end of this video, and you can then, apply the same process to these foods, and you can call and ask the company for the individual information on a dry matter basis. The chart is here, and we're going to zoom in and we're going to go over the chart just to get you accustomed with the website in case you want to do your own research. And the ones that we are not going to be doing are going to be these Heartland Gold, because those are all grain-free. So I tried to pick one from every line, puppy, dog, and cat. Mostly they're gold and they're classic, that were not the Heartland variety. And so that's what we're going to do on the chart, and here is the chart. Pet food scoring system, what we're going to be using here. Let's get that to the right size. So pet food scoring system, if you are new to this channel, welcome. Actually, welcome if you're new to this channel. I hope you enjoy this. Be sure to like and subscribe. Everybody stop right now, like and subscribe, because it really helps the channel out and helps the channel grow and helps people learn a very methodical approach. So I'll give you 2 seconds to go and do that right now as I explain the pet food scoring system. The pet food scoring system is a system as I made up completely. You will not find it in a textbook. You will not find it anywhere other than Dr. A's channel, or maybe other channels that mention me, which other than Glenn, I don't know who that would be. And so what it is I've taken all that marketing stuff, all that stuff that we talked about in the beginning, and it doesn't exist. It doesn't count. It doesn't mean anything. What we care about is the nutritional aspect of the food, nutrition alone. And so what does that mean? It means the nutrients need to be there. It means that the calcium, the phosphorus, the fiber, the minerals, which were the calcium and phosphorus, and the protein and the fat need to be on point. They need to be within the reference ranges, and the reference ranges that I'm using for this channel are small animal clinical nutrition. There's a link to that text in the description box below. So when I pop up this chart that you're going to see in a minute of the standards, that's where those are coming. People always ask me, are they WASAVA? No, they are not. I look at small animal clinical nutrition. It's very close to WASAVA. It is not AFCO. AFCO is not a nutrient company. They are a label regulatory company. They got those numbers in their own way, but they do not do research on them. They are not invested in, staying up to date on the research and things like that. They're not into managing diseases, anything like that. They're a label company, and so their values are very large because they need to allow the market to exist. Okay, so there are different, companies need to have different price points to be profitable and offer pet parents different price points and things like that. And so it's a very large range. It is not an optimal range necessarily. That's what we're going to focus on today from small animal clinical nutrition. So we're going to take those 5 parameters. We're also going to see, did they Did they do the feeding guide right? Are they telling you the correct amount to feed? So many people are confused about how much to feed their pets. Is the company doing that appropriately for you? Or are they telling you to feed too much so that you feed more and you buy more food? Or are they telling you to feed too little because there's one of these fresh food companies and it would be, exorbitant for them to provide a food at that price point for the amount that a dog really needs to eat? Are they suggesting the correct life stage? Are they doing that research we just talked about through feeding trials? So that's a big thing on this company. They were the first company to do feeding trials. So are they doing that as they say that they are? Because that is a noteworthy thing. So they get a point if they did feeding trials. Is the food grain free? We don't want that. We're not going into that to the channel. I have a video on that. You can watch that video. I'm not belaboring it. Video's already getting long. And is it raw? Raw is not appropriate for the general population. If you feel that's appropriate with your pet, you need to get with a board certified nutritionist or you need to get with your specific veterinarian. We are not going to be discussing that on this channel because for the general population, not appropriate. So anyway, 10 points, 7, 8, 9, or 10. We're looking at a good food, in my opinion. 6 or below, they are better options. We know they're better options. We have playlists on this channel that highlight those better options. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. Across the top of this chart are the bags. We're going to do some puppy, we're going to be doing some cat, we're going to be doing some adult, some weight loss, some senior, everything like that. And we're going to be scoring them and assigning them a score. Let's pull up the standards really quick for what we're going to be looking for the adult. I think we got it now. So first food we're going to be doing, Fromm Family Foods Adult Gold. It's 418 kcal per cup. Spoiler alert, all the kcal recommendations were appropriate. There was not a single one where they recommended the incorrect amount. So for your viewing pleasure, the calories are all listed there for you, but they were all correct as far as the feeding guide goes. Now, life stage is the next column here. The life stage is very important. The life stage is very important because a pet food company that really cares about nutrition is going to tailor the life stage for the pet that they are marketing towards. So this is adult gold. It should be life staged as an adult food. The AFCO statement should say for adults. This food did not. It said all life stages. And so if you can feed this food to all life stages, it means that you can feed it to a puppy. And a puppy food is not appropriate for an adult. Too much minerals in general, too much fat in general, too much protein in general. I have a video on that. I will pop a picture of it up here somewhere, wherever I can pop it, and go watch that video if you don't know what I'm talking about. There's a sweet spot where it can be all life stages and meet all the requirements, but that is very difficult and requires a lot of tailoring and is most likely very expensive, and that's why we don't see that. And so they do get a point deduction for being an all life stage food because it is not appropriate for an adult in general. Feeding trials. This is really interesting, and we're just going to take a pause here to take a look at the chart as it pertains to feeding trials. One of the big marketing things was they were a company to do the first large scale feeding trial in dog food, I think is what it said. Let's look right here for a minute. Not one of these foods, and I know it's not the entire portfolio, I know that, but it does have their classic and it does have some of their big guns here. Not a single one of these foods was feeding trial. Okay, so let's take a minute to digest that. Is it a deal breaker? No. But again, be very careful with the marketing. Use the pet food scoring system to do your evaluations because you can see where sometimes the marketing can lead you astray. Feeding trials are great. They tell you how a food may perform, tells you how some of maybe the biochemical, when they feed the dog, they check some biochemicals to tell how that is being affected. If you don't do them, you don't know. Yes, they're not the be all end all, but it is something. And especially if your company is touting that you are one of the first companies to do it, why would you stop doing it if you're so proud of that? So across the board, none of these were feeding trialed. Let's move this back. So far we are getting a point for having the correct amount to feed. We are losing the point on the life stage because it was not correct. We're losing the point on the feeding trial, and then we're going to be getting 2 points for it not being grain-free and you're not being raw. So we're up to 3 points going into the guaranteed analysis. Now, This is not the guaranteed analysis. I know I just said going into the guaranteed analysis. I call it that, but we're not actually using the guaranteed analysis. We're not going to use that because that's minimums and maximums, and so there's too much wiggle room there. And so as you navigate the website, we're going to head back over and let's go to the adult gold. This is where you need to look as you're going through the food evaluations. Pass all this superfluous stuff. Pass this guaranteed analysis and go right here to the typical analysis. That's what you need to be asking companies for when you're calling them and you're getting this information. You see here on the right hand side, and I love these little nutritional charts because they actually have everything that you need right on here. So these are actually wonderful when companies have these. It allows me to do these videos. Some companies, I had some requests for like Blue Buffalo. I can't do it because they don't have this on their website. They might answer my question, but it's ridiculous for me to ask them about 50 foods. It just, honestly, it makes it so much easier for me if it's on the website. And so right here, you can see you got an as-is basis that has all the moisture in there. See, it has this 8.1% on moisture, and then there's nothing here in the dry matter side. This is what we want. We want dry matter basis. It's going to be drastically different than the guaranteed analysis and the typical analysis. Why? Because the guaranteed analysis allows for minimum and maximums. It does not require them to list absolutes. And as-is basis has moisture, and all foods have different moisture content, and so you cannot compare them accurately like that. So you want this column here, which is a dry matter basis, and that's what we're going to be using when you see the numbers in my chart. I'm not going to go over this particular sheet in every single food, but just know that that's where that came from. So let's pop over back to my chart, and then we'll speedy through from here. So protein was 28, fat 18, 3.7 on fiber, 1.51 on calcium, 1.21 on phosphorus. If we look over here to the adult standards, we can see that the protein is good, the fiber is good, the fat is also good. And then with the minerals, we start to get into trouble. And that is often the case. Unfortunately, it's very difficult and very costly and very time consuming for companies to get the minerals in check. So for me, a company that has actually been able to balance the minerals, I mean, that is usually a sign that they're using very quality ingredients, or they're taking the time to take the ingredients that they have procured and processing them in a way that the end product is a clean product. And so unfortunately, when we take all that into consideration, the gold is only actually going to score a 6 out of 10, which is, for a lot of us on this channel, considered kind of a suboptimal level. The next is the ancient gold. I can't remember what actually makes it ancient. I think they're using like those ancient grains in there. Again, the first top of the profile is going to be pretty similar. Actually, all the characteristics are actually very similar. It was a little bit higher in fiber, but it was still excessive in the minerals, and so they're going to get a 6 on that as well. Then we're moving into the large breed. I believe this was the regular large breed, and it was not a puppy large breed. We'll get to puppy a little bit later on. I want to make sure that I highlight for you guys, because I get this question a lot. Large breed adult, small breed adult is completely a marketing thing. There is no nutritional requirement difference between a large breed and a small breed at the basics. The large breed, small breed definition has to do with puppy phases, because there are different requirements for growth for large and small breed puppies. But once they have achieved their maximum kind of like skeletal structure, there is no different nutritional requirement as found in the research. And so large breed and small breed adult dog food is all marketing. There are no different nutritional requirements, and so that's why we're going to be using this chart, and there is no other chart. I get that question a lot. Where's the chart for large breed adult dog? There isn't one. It's the same as the regular adult. There is no small breed adult. It's the same as the regular adult. And so when we speed through this again, you can see we have the exact same problem. Everything is looking great until we get to the minerals, and the minerals are in excess, which makes these score a 6 out of 10 as well. Now we get into the weight management, and sometimes when they do the weight management, I get a little bit excited because I'm like, oh, maybe they tweaked a little bit of something, and we're gonna have a breakthrough here. And we did have a little bit of a breakthrough in that now they have done the correct life stage. They have done this specifically for an adult. Why? Because they're going to be having this as a lower fat food, and puppies need higher fat. So they couldn't list this labelly as an all life stages. It didn't qualify because it's going to have too low of a fat content. And so when we come down here, we can see the protein was, pretty good, pretty moderate at 27.9. So that was wonderful. The fat 11.37 is the lower end of the fat range, right? So 10 to 20 is what we were shooting for there. It's a weight management, so they've got the lower fat. Fiber is gonna bump them, is gonna kind of hurt them a little bit here as far as the pet food scoring system, because it's 9, which is in excess of 5, which is kind of what we're looking for. But, you know, I wouldn't be too mad about that if the minerals were on point, because, you know, we are feeding a medical condition essentially. So obesity is a medical condition, and so sometimes you do have to tweak the standards for a dog that, you know, medically needs nutrition to help them. And so I would be okay with this being an excessively, you know, fiber food if I was treating obesity. But the problem is the minerals, they're still on that excessive mineral profile, and so this food is also only going to score a 6 out of 10. Next is their classic. I don't know, you know, what the deal is, why one's a classic, why one's not. To me, honestly, it doesn't really matter. You know, what they call the food, it's the nutrition that matters to me. So you guys can dive in deeper and see what makes this a classic. And basically the classic is mimicking the adult gold and the ancient gold. It is still going to score a 6 out of 10 because, again, we have a little bit, or a lot bit in some instances, excessive on the minerals. Now we get into the senior. The senior ones always are really exciting to me because I feel like they do tend to pay a little bit more attention to the senior ones, which I'm happy about. Again, they did do both of their senior classic and their gold senior as the correct life stage as an adult, and the reason being is they are having those lower fat, which we know the seniors do not need too much fat. They do need a decent amount of fat to kind of maintain their energy levels, but they don't need excessive amounts. They do need lower protein because we don't want to overload the kidneys, so I was happy to see that they did that as well. So they brought their protein down to about 25 and 24 on these formulas. Fiber was actually pretty moderate on these. We see different fiber requirements for seniors, usually still less than 5 is what we want, but we do find as they age and they need a little bit, they tend to be a little bit more dehydrated. Maybe they need a little extra fiber, but that's easy to add, you know, easy to add secondary. So fiber was very good. And then we get into the mineral content. Mineral content was still slightly off on these. It just barely eked by on the phosphorus, a little bit excess on the calcium, not horrible. And so it brought both the senior formulas up to a 7 out of 10. I would actually even venture to say that these formulas, even though a bit excessive for a senior, so we can pop up the senior numbers here, it's not going to be at a 7 out of 10 for a senior dog. It's more a 7 out of 10 for an adult dog. A senior, I think it would slip back down into the 6 range, but still not bad. 7 out of 10 for if these senior foods were fed to a regular adult, and I don't think it's horrible for a senior. I think there are some I think there were other brands that had some options for seniors. You can look in the senior playlist. There were more on point for a senior than these. Now we get into the feline diets, and we're going to go through them, but I did highlight here in red something that I know all my feline friends are always jumping to. I know they're always going down here, and that's the minerals. And so the minerals on all the cat foods, in my opinion, were extremely in excess. Like, a lot of times I just look at the foods and I just go to the minerals and I'm like, what do we have there? What's the deal? What's the deal? And when the minerals are that high on a cat food, even though you go through the feline gold, the weight gold, and the indoor, and they're getting 7s across the board, I would still be a little bit weary because the minerals were so in excess for the feline formulas. But I mean, yes, the protein, the fat, the fiber were good. It wasn't grain-free. It wasn't raw. Again, they didn't do the feeding trials, even though that was kind of like one of their marketing things. It was labeled correctly as an adult, and the kcals per cup were correct. I would be a little bit concerned about the minerals, so I went ahead and I put those in red there, but that's for you to decide with your veterinarian. And so I hope that was helpful for you. I know this was a little bit of a longer video, but I thought there was a lot of ancillary questions that I got asked just beyond just the nutrition of the food, and so I wanted to go ahead and answer those because I thought some of the perceptions that this company was giving out may be misaligned with reality. And so again, that doesn't bear anything on the nutrition of the food. Nutrition is here, and nutrition is here in this chart. And so I hope when you evaluate Fromm Family Foods for your personal use and your personal pet's consumption, you focus on nutrition and you focus on things such as what we discussed in the chart here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys will hang out again with me real soon for my next video series. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.